Welcome back to another episode of The Top Step. My name is Rowland-Smith. Now, in this episode, I'm joined by Seattle Mariners' top prospect and a big part of this starting rotation, Mr. Justus Sheffield. Now, I started this podcast and called it The Top Step because some of my favorite memories in the big leagues were standing on the top step of the dugout with teammates, hearing their story and being inspired by their journey. And for Justus, he was one of these kids who absolutely dominated high school baseball, committed to attend Vanderbilt University with his big bro, but he decided to go straight into pro ball when the Indians used that first round draft pick to lure him away from the college route. After an arrest, underage drinking in his first year of pro ball, being a part of two high-profile trades, and a 2019 that started with some serious struggles, sending him back to AA, he's finally found a home and ready for a huge 2020. Well, once we get started, that is. Now, if you're enjoying this episode, make sure you press that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can also watch this episode on YouTube. There is a link below in the notes. All right, Mariner fans, I hope you enjoy this episode as Justus Sheffield joins me on the top step.
No matter what happens, Rowland-Smith has something to tell his grandkids right here. First appearance of the big leagues. Face a Hall of Famer. Especially if he strikes them out.
Here comes the 1-2 pitch to Junior now. The breaking ball, he struck him out. Yeah, that will be a story for the rest of his life as he strikes out Ken Griffey Jr. and the inning is over. But what an inning it was.
All right, Justus. All right, so I've got to ask you, where are you right now?
Right now I'm back home. Yeah.
Okay. Tennessee?
I was back home in Tennessee. I was out in Arizona for a little bit after they started shutting things down, thinking we was gonna stay. But I ended up getting a flight home and back in Tennessee.
Was everyone sticking around in Arizona? Was that the plan? Was everyone like, hey, let's just stay put and work out together?
Yeah, that was the plan at first. We had a meeting about it, the players and stuff. So that was kind of the plan. And then once they kind of shut down the facility, it was like there's really no point of us even being out here. So
it's crazy.
Started loading up. Yeah.
I have never, and I'm not that I'm that much older than you, but every day I wake up, I'm like, what is happening right now? It's crazy. So was that something when MLB said you have the right to go home, but did you have veterans saying, hey, let's all just stay here and work out, or how'd that work?
Yeah, we had a couple of vets, like saying that they was going to stay out there and, continue to work out at the facility and things like that. Yeah. But then, some other guys had, different plans, family, it's a different situation, for everyone. And, I could understand guys wanting to be with their family back home and get back. But, a couple guys tried to stay, but once they shut it down, it was really no point.
There's no point. Was that something, did they give you any warning about that? Was there did you guys have meetings saying, hey, this possibly could happen? Or was it just did Scott Service walk in one day and say, hey, everyone has to get out of here?
I mean, we had a meeting and he was just kind of day by day. They were taking phone calls. I mean, they sent us home one day and called us back in a couple hours later just because, they were playing the by ear phone call. But we had meetings and he was saying that he was going to stay around for a little bit and then probably end up going home. But I mean, there was really nothing else to be said, but stay close to the phone and, keep a head out.
Have they been checking in with you, throughout these last couple of weeks? Do they check in with you?
Yeah. I've talked to pretty much everyone. So they've called me, I think twice, maybe 3 times since I've left Arizona. So just talking about baseball things.
Have you heard the latest? Have you heard the plan? Just literally last night, I think I read it, that to start in Arizona, no fans. Have you heard anything about that?
I seen something today actually, where they were talking about us staying out in Arizona and renting out hotels and things like that, which is, I mean, that's pretty crazy. But I mean, I guess to get the season going, I guess they got to do something.
Yeah, I'm begging them to do it, man, because I'm sitting here, dude. I've got nothing to do. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I'm so bored. I have literally nothing. Well, I work out and I throw. That's it. I mean,
how do you work out? You're in Tennessee right now. Where are you at? Are you at your parents' place? Are you at your place? Are you with your brother? Is your brother down there?
Yeah, he's down here too. But no, we rented out a place for the off season, a place in Nashville, and that lease is up. So we had to move back home actually, and bunk it with the parents, which is all good. Getting to see the family, spend time with them, and things like that. But I'm finding my ways around the gym. My buddy, he actually has a nice indoor facility gym.
Nice.
That lets me go use. So I'll use that. And then my dad's got a little rig in the garage, that I'll get out there and do some things too. So
nice. And did they give any kind of indication for how you do spring training before it started? Anything like that?
The last thing I heard was they're going to give us a 3 weeks of normal spring training before we start playing games. And
wow.
I've heard it's going to be in Arizona to we could go to Seattle and just have a spring training out there.
Right. So, okay, by the way, I envisioned this. I asked you in spring training, I said, hey, you want to get together and do this, obviously in person. See, I envisioned this. Okay, wait till he gets back to Seattle after he just goes 8 shutout on top of the dugout.
Right.
Talking through a screen, which seems so normal. Like, I mean, I've got buddies from back in Australia. We're setting up like having a beer over Zoom. It's the weirdest thing,
that's
man.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Because I struggle like talking, on FaceTime. I struggle with the, looking at the screen. I'm happy to talk on the phone, but having to stare at the screen, I want to do other things. It's crazy. But no, dude. And the reason I say that is because you looked so good in spring training. I had a chance to watch you in person down in spring training, and then the clips and everything else. For you, I think the word I used on air was you just look comfortable. And not that you, at the end of last year, you look completely different. And I want to dive into 2019, but just everything was slowed down for this spring training. Going into spring, if you can remember, especially after all this, what was different? What was that, that mindset for you?
Yeah, I think it was just, getting those innings under my belt the year before, that was a big help. Getting into rotation, getting into that routine, that helped a lot. And then, coming into this year, I was like, dude, this is like my fourth spring training big league camp. So, I mean, I've done it before. I've been there before. So it's, it's just one of those things where let's just go out here and put the work in I need to put in and not put any pressure on myself. Just play ball. Yeah.
Do you think, and this is something, and again, I want to talk about this because we met, we were on a caravan at the beginning of last year down in Portland. And I remember talking to you, and one thing that stuck with me, I talked about this last year, was when you were with the Yankees, you started with the Indians, you went to the Yankees. And one thing that kind of got in your way was a bit of a hurdle was they, instead of just letting you go out and pitch, because you were a kid, in high school, you just dominated, right? You were pitched off stuff and you just overwhelmed hitters. All of a sudden, the Yankees are here saying, hey, let's try and do this and try and do that. And you're getting away from what you naturally do. I don't know if you remember talking about that, but you said, I just want to go out and pitch. You know, all of a sudden, analytics are jumping in. Has that been, especially coming over with the Mariners, has that been something you've been able to balance out, like using the information and still having a chance just to be yourself out there?
Yeah. And I think as the time goes on, I've been able to evolve as a pitcher on and off the field, and using the analytics like that. I was so not so into that. I just wanted to rock. I wanted to go get my outs. Kind of brought up in the old school type coaching. That's all my coaches were. And but as I've gotten through just this year, even just through spring training, using the analytics is huge. I went from a 4-seam to a 2-seam just off using analytics, seeing that I have a sinking fastball and using that to my advantage. So it's like, as we evolve, I mean, I think I'm evolving it too. So it's pretty cool to see that working in my game.
But you got to trust the information though, right? I remember, and the reason I say that, in 2010, I just bombed. I had a terrible year. And the one thing they kept telling me, hey, look, and this is where I'm sort of going with you, is they said, oh, you have to start throwing a cut fastball. So in my mind, I fell into this trap of thinking, all right, my fastball's not good enough. I have to trick someone. Yeah. So when it comes, everyone's like, oh, just start throwing a 2-seamer. Like, it's that easy. You have to trust it, man. And what I noticed in spring training, and, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just looked comfortable in a sense, because you talk about the 2-seamer and you had a ton of sink and life on that pitch. It just looked like you'd been throwing it for years.
Yeah. I think it was just trust, honestly. That's the main thing. I mean, pitching in the big leagues, you can't go out there and not trust any of your stuff. You're going to go out there and get whacked, Right. I mean, just going out there and just trusting my stuff. And I wanted to throw the ball over the plate and see what they wanted and see what they was going to do. and that's kind of what I was doing. So
there's nothing worse than when you're out there and you're in a big count and it's like your third, fourth best pitch. You know it, and you're like, oh, here we go. It's just the worst feeling. I was throwing this cut for, dude. Yeah, it's terrible. I was throwing this cutter. It was like 82 miles an hour, just flat. Just getting rocked. And this is into April. The season already started, and we're in Chicago. I got crushed. And the pitching coach is like, "Hey man, stay with it. You know, like it's something." I'm like, "Dude, this sucks." And finally, I just canned it. I was like, "No, I'm done with this." Yeah. But it comes down to who's giving you that information too, right?
Right.
So who is it? Like, how does that conversation go down? You're in spring training. How does that start? Do you come into spring, or is this something in the off season? They say, "Hey man, look, you're a two-seamer because the way we're seeing from the analytics is doing this." When does that conversation start?
Yeah. Well, that started for me in the off season last year at the end of the year, and they just mentioned it to me, and that was that. They gave it, just mention it, let it go through my head real quick, and went in the off season, messed around with it a little bit. Didn't really do too much with it because I didn't trust it at first. I didn't really see improvement or quick results. And so I kind of threw it away like you did. And then when I got to spring training, they mentioned it again. And then I tried it in my bullpen, and then I started working with it more and more, and then seeing the results, and then finally put it in the game, and just trusted it.
You have to see the hitter's reaction though, don't you? Right? Like you have to get to the point. And that's the hard thing in the off season. I don't know. In the off season, do you get a chance to face hitters?
No, I didn't. I didn't get to at all. So.
Yeah.
But I know what you're talking about. It's you don't know what it's going to look like until batter standing up there.
Yeah. Because you want to throw it, and sometimes you're like, oh, because and again, if you've never pitched and you're listening to these people, like, dude, it's a four-seam or a two-seam, but it's just that. It's taking you out of that natural thing, especially in your position where you want to go in, you want to impress. You've done this before. You've been in spring training a ton. You're coming off a year where you finally got a chance to get back to the big leagues last year. Was now the new pitching coach this year, Pete Woodworth, right? Was he a guy that if he said something, was there that trust factor? Because I want to get into, what you did in AA last year and that transition. But was that something that if he says it, or if he sort of signs off on it, or if someone signs off on it that you trust, is that the difference?
Yeah, for sure for him. And that's because of, he's just a people person. Type of coach he is, very like a player coach. And he said some things too where I'm like, I don't know, I'll try it, and then maybe not like it, and then he's cool with that. You know what I'm saying? He's very transparent. So, but when he mentioned this two seam, I threw a first couple when I seen it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna start ripping this thing off, just throwing it, and then ever since then. But he definitely knows what he's talking about, puts the work in, and great person for the job.
And when he mentioned that was at the end of last year.
That was actually end of last year in our meetings, and then going into this year in spring training.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's something you mentioned. You have to see it visually to say. Yeah, it's. Again, man, I go back to this all the time. There's some pitching gurus on Twitter and hitting gurus and everything else. But I can't explain this to people enough. You have to be able to see it 60 feet away and that feel out of your hand, which makes all the difference in the world.
Yep.
So going back, you mentioned 2019 and with Pete, he obviously meant a lot to you having a rebound in 2019 like you did, right? Because you started the year off in AAA, didn't go great. Once the season kicked off, were you upset you didn't make the team out of spring training, or you kind of expected? Was it said to you at the end of spring, hey, look, you're probably going to go to AAA? What was that vibe going back to April last year?
Yeah, I went into camp wanting to make the team. Getting traded over, I knew I wanted to come in, make a strong case for the one of the spots. I knew coming in that wouldn't probably be many spots open, but I knew I might have a slim chance. Ended up not, and then went to spring training. But then I had a good exit meeting where they, talked to me and explained that I would go down there for a little bit, and then wouldn't be long before I'd be up with the big league team, to come in after you say. So they told me that in spring training, way before I even went to AAA. But went to AAA and just kind of snowball effect type thing. Just kind of got it out of whack, and it just kept going.
Was it more mental, physical? Especially like, if you go back, April, when all of a sudden you mentioned the snowball effect, which happens quick, right? Especially, and I'm going to get to something in a second. If I forget, I need to write this down. But it happens quick, man. Was it something? It wasn't mechanical. Was it something in your head?
I think more so it was in my head than anything. There may be a few mechanical cues in there that I wasn't, getting it, but that was probably because I was making the adjustments as time was going, because I kept seeing more failure, and then I'm just trying to figure it out. But more so mentally, yeah. And
the reason I asked that is because, I've been there before, where you're in spring training, you're coming over a huge trade, with Paxton. You come over, and everyone's, telling you what kind of priority you are. I mean, I was on that caravan, and people are coming up to you, oh my God, Justus Sheffield, what I mean? People are so excited to see you. And in spring training, you're around major league stuff is all around you. All of a sudden, you go in, you have that meeting, they say, hey, you're going to AAA, and they could tell you anything. They could say, hey, you're coming back in a week, right? Or they could tell you, hey, man, you it doesn't look good, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's just, you don't know till it happens. You don't know.
You don't know. But then you get to AAA, and I've been there before, and you're up like the first week, you're like, oh, I'm good, I'm only going to be here for a little bit. But then that shine wears off, man.
Yep.
AAA is no friggin' joke.
No,
First of all,
no, it's not. Especially the PCL, that's no joke.
Yeah, it's and not only is it, obviously everyone knows about the ball flying there, and they had new baseballs and the whole thing, right? And you can chalk it up to that or whatever. The travel is brutal. I don't care. You can talk about bus rides all you want, but having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, right, to get on a 6 a.m. Southwest connecting flight through Dallas to fly somewhere, it's brutal. I have a theory, and I remember I was talking to Marco on this podcast. My theory is that Dallas airport where Dallas, one of those connecting airports when you're flying through or wherever it is, Denver or whatever, when you go in these AAA cities, that's like the graveyard for AAA players. Their aspirations just go out the window, because you're like, I just don't want to do this anymore. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's brutal. It's terrible. I agree with you. That was the worst thing for me, was the travel, for sure.
Yeah.
I felt delirious, man. Felt like I didn't get any sleep hardly ever. It was just, it was tough.
Do you still have to wear nice clothes when you're traveling, or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
4 o'clock in the morning, you're in a button up and slacks.
And you get the C ticket on the Southwest, right?
Yep.
And you got the button up. It's uncomfortable. Just let me wear like sweatpants. No one knows who I am. Like, just let me,
Right.
Like, I know I'm representing the Mariners, I guess, but no one cares. No. And the worst is there was a couple times where the flight attendant would walk down the aisle and say, hey, you guys are a sports team? We're like, oh, yeah, AAA baseball team. So as the flight lands, I want to wish the Tacoma Rainiers the best of luck. It's just like,
come on, just get me there. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to get off this plane. And the other part of this is too, and speaking of Marco, see, we talked about AAA, the salty squad, and this is no disrespect to anyone who's in AAA. But I was one of those dudes, man, where you're in your late 20s, all of a sudden you've gotten to the big leagues, and then you've kind of done this one with your career. All of a sudden it's gone back and forth, and you're stuck in AAA or some of these guys who have been designated for assignment. You have to deal with that too. So when you're a young pitcher like you, and you're a stud, you're a big prospect, everyone knows who you are, and you're starting to hit the skids a little bit, there's really no one to bounce anything off in person. Because everyone there's just out for themselves, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's how it felt too, man. It was a tough situation. It was tough.
It's like no one cares about what you have, what you're dealing with, because you're a young prospect, you're a first rounder dude. You know what I mean? And I've been that dude, man. I remember being in Oklahoma City in 2011. I was designated for assignments with the Astros, and they were losing, so they were just sending every young kid up, and I was like, any young kid around me, I'll admit, man, I was like, screw you guys, man. I'm out for myself here. So you go from that, right? And then you go to AA. Now, when you look at this from an outsider's perspective, I remember you getting sent down to AA, and I was like, oh man, because you and I sort of, wouldn't say hit it off, but we got to know each other at the caravan. And I was really rooting for you. I mean, it was fun to watch you do your thing in spring training, and then I see you go from AAA. I look at the numbers. I look at a snapshot. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Then you go to AA. And all of a sudden, you just get on a roll, right?
Yeah.
And this goes back to some of the things we talked about AAA. AA, such a better environment, right?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, yeah.
For you, if you describe that one to me, when you went to AA, what was the difference as soon as you got, your feet wet down there and you knew you were down there?
Yeah, I think it was honestly, it just kind of brought me back to reality. Brought me back to the times where I was actually grinding.
Yeah.
I know I was taking the bad flights and stuff like that, but I actually enjoyed going back and riding the buses and just hanging out with the team. Kind of, it was more of a team camaraderie.
Right.
The group of players that was down there, we were winning. Ton of prospects on that team, so it was fun to be on great group of guys, and it just made me I meshed easy. I went down there and also I was pissed off, so I kind of I was ready to go get my thing going again. I heard enough negativity, so I was ready to get my game back going. But it was a good mesh back down there.
You need some of that, don't you? Sometimes when everyone's told you how awesome you are, and you go to AAA. And you expect people to not to do you favors, but you expect things just to happen, and you lose some of that grind, some of that fight, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. I went to knowing. I think what messed me up most is knowing that I was going to go to the big leagues in that short amount of time, and then that's the only thing I was thinking about. I didn't care about anything else. I'd go 2 innings, give up 7, and I'd be like, oh well, I'm that's my date. That's when I'm going. Once I get there, I'm gonna take off. Stupid. But like I said, we all gotta go through it.
Yeah. No, you're right, and that's something that it's again when you're looking from the outside, you're looking at that thinking, well, you should change your attitude. It's not easy, man. When you have, and I always think that too, like. And now for you guys, it's different from when I was a young player. I was never a huge prospect, but then I showed up on a couple prospect lists, and it was probably the worst thing for me because I'd have some like front office member come down. You guys, it's way harder for you because you can get on Twitter, Instagram, and you've got all these outlets saying here's the top 10 prospects and whoever. So you're like, oh sweet, I'm good. There's my badge. I'm destined to be big time. But I'd have front office guys come down and say, hey man, like that. They're really excited to have you up there. I'm like, oh, well, and then give up a 6 spot. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. And then just snowballs. But I think you mentioned too, the energy is different in AA, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely win environment. They were trying to win. They were out to get a ring that year. And, like I said, that just kind of brought me back to that fight, that actually playing for something. It was I was grateful to go down there actually. So
yeah, and you have to take some of that, bottle it up. I mean, even you're having a good spring. When spring was finishing, did they tell you that look, you're going to be in this rotation? Did they mention any of that this year in 2020?
Yeah, I mean that was pretty much kind of, I think set in stone. I didn't really say much about it. Just kind of anytime we talked or sat down, it was more so talking about how I can get better. So,
and I think and that's great. It's great to hear that, especially in spring training. But you sometimes feel like, especially at the stage you're at now in your career, that you kind of want them to say, hey, you have to compete for a spot as long as they possibly can until the day where you're actually flying off, right?
Right, exactly. Because you don't want to. It's tough. I've been through spring trainings where I went through and I did terrible because I just knew I wasn't gonna make the team, and then just didn't even care or whatnot. And then this one I was just like forget it. I'm out here just trying to get better, and then whatever happens. So
now going back to Pete Woodworth. Now you go to AA, and this is the first time you'd been around him.
Yeah, first time.
All right, so. And I want to, sort of from your perspective, introduce him to Mariner fans who are listening, who's the new pitching coach. So, what were some of the first conversations when you met him? What were some of the first things he spoke to you about?
Yeah, the first day I walked in, he sat me down. We had a meeting, and we just kind of he sat down and he asked me what I wanted, what I wanted to accomplish. He knew that I was coming from AAA and whatnot. He didn't care about me wanting to be in the big leagues. He wanted me to know. He wanted to know what did I want to accomplish this season still.
Right.
And we went down a list of goals and things that I wanted to do, and mixed in that this is a winning team and we're all about winning, and that's our attitude, and we're gonna have fun while we're at it.
Yeah.
And Woody's just like I said, a people person, and easy to talk to out there on the field, on the mound, or in bullpen sessions. Just kind of sees everything,
And what were some of the answers when he said, because it's hard, man. When you get sent to AA like that, you kind of like, screw you, like you just don't even want to be around people. It's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he says, what do you still want to accomplish this year? I mean, your first thought is like, screw 2019.
Yeah, right. And that's exactly how I was thinking.
What were some of your responses, those first conversations with him? What were some of your responses when he said, what do you want to accomplish this year?
Yeah, well, like I was thinking that too. I didn't want to go down and be that, like you said, that player that gets demoted and, just is terrible, doesn't even look like they're having a good time. I didn't want to be that player. I wanted to, fit in when I could and help the team win.
Yeah.
And that was my main goal, and that's what I told him. Anything I can do to help this team win.
Yeah.
I just want to get back to having fun and winning. That's pretty much the two things that I told him. So.
And when you got down there, who are your buddies down there? Because I mean, you're new to the organization, but who are the guys that you were? It's good to see you. I feel comfortable now that you're here.
Yeah, for sure, Dunn. Me and Dunn, we kicked it off in spring training. Actually, that spring training before he went to AA, and then I went to AAA. So it was good to see him again. And then Kyle Lou, he was his locker was next to mine. So I was chilling with him, and Evan White. I mean, I can go down the list of line. I mean, it was just all those guys. We were hanging off the field. If we weren't, on the field, we was eating or we was hanging by the pool. There was a lot of team hanging out, which I missed that. And it's cool to get back to. You know what I'm saying? So
AAA, it's hard to manufacture that in AAA.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. A lot of old guys, they got families. They're not, they're just trying to get back to their kids and stuff. So
that's awesome. And it's funny. I in 2008, Tampa Bay Rays went to the World Series, right? 2007, a buddy of mine, Grant Balfour, he was on that team. And in 2007, I said, dude, because a bunch of young guys on that team. And I said, God, you guys are struggling. He goes, no, this is a blast. This is so fun. Now, he was an older dude. He goes, all these young guys, man. And the one thing he said in 2008, because they went to the World Series, he said that all these guys knew each other back in AA. Like they were all buddies, and they were all sort of, pushing each other and had that little communal thing. Because you don't get that in the minor leagues. In the minor leagues, it's so competitive. Especially you're talking about Justin Dunn. You guys are basically battling for the same spot. But if you guys are buddies, it makes it so much easier, right?
Right. Because we just feed off each other. That's kind of what we talk about all the time. We just want to keep feeding off each other, keep driving each other.
Now back to Pete. As your outings went on, and you started to get that snowball effect, and you started to put up some serious numbers. What was that? What was the progression with him? What was he seeing, and what were you guys doing differently?
Honestly, it was more so I went there, and since the first day I was on the plane, I kind of noticed that a little simple mechanical cue that I was missing, that I was doing in AAA. I was really rushing. I wasn't staying on my backside, staying over the rubber. Yeah. And I told him that the first day. So the whole time I was there, that was literally the whole thing he was hammering at me. He was staying back over the rubber. And that was literally the main thing. And then the other thing for Woody would be just the attitude on the mound, the drive. That he loved when I was out there pitching with swag, coming into the dugout, hyping up the players and stuff. It was fun. But I was out there competing. I felt fierce out there. I felt like nobody could really hit me when I was down there, and felt like that carried on for the rest of the year. So it was good to get back to myself.
That's one, and that's another thing too. I noticed when you came up, you made a spot start. Your body language is completely different when you came back up. I mean, you had that swag about you, that alpha, which is something again when you're getting hit around, man. You just get smaller, you rush, and that's something I did notice last year. So okay, so he's a guy, and again, this is for people who don't quite know, Pete, and I don't know. I've met him once. I met him at the winter meetings real quick. So he's big on that kind of having that presence on the mound. He preaches that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
He loves that. He loves it.
That's awesome. Okay, that's great. So what about? So you have an older brother. He's in pro ball. Went to Vanderbilt.
Yep.
Was he, when you're in AAA and you're going through those struggles, or any time in your career, was that someone you would, bounce ideas off? Do you guys have that kind of relationship?
Oh yeah. I would call him, 3 times a week, even more, with our schedules being busy, playing and stuff. But, he would try and watch my outings and see what was going on and things like that. And, just always uplifting. He's not going to ever tear me down. So he's always going to be the person that I always revert to help out, see if he sees anything, things like that. And, vice versa.
Where's he at in his career? He's still with the Dodgers?
Yeah, he's with the Dodgers. He's in AA. He was in big league camp this past year, first big league camp.
Oh, nice.
So,
oh, great.
Yeah.
How'd he do?
Hopefully, he did pretty good. He had a really good couple first outings, and then last one he learned some things from that one. So yeah, but yeah, he loved it. He had a great time. He makes him more hungry, to get up there to the big league. So
is it still that older brother, younger brother? Like if you try and give him advice, is he like, hey, shut the hell up? Because you're younger than him?
Not anymore.
Okay.
I think not anymore. I think early on a little bit, but now we're kind of at the same understanding where we want the same thing. So
is he proud of you? I mean, because you've done some big things quickly in your career. I mean, you were 20 when you went up. You made your debut. Or 21 with the Yankees.
Yeah, 21.
I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's extremely tough to do that fast to make your debut. Is that something that he's really proud of you?
Yeah. I mean, he actually had to come to New York and for my debut, and I think he had a better time than I did, honestly, for the homestand. So he definitely talks about it all the time about me going up and things like that. So definitely proud of me, and I'm definitely proud of him.
You guys always have a good relationship, even when you were kids?
Yeah. Coming up, I mean, there was a lot of fights, a lot of fights. There was a lot of fights, but we're only 11 months apart, so
wow,
we were pretty tight growing up.
That's awesome. That's great. And so he went to Vanderbilt, right? Now I want to ask you about this, and this is something when I'm talking to 16, 17-year-olds like studs down in Australia that. And I spoke to you about this at the Caravan, right? Vanderbilt's a massive school. You were committed, ready to roll to go to Vanderbilt, right?
Yep.
And obviously, the Indians came along, made you, your first round draft pick, made you a huge offer, which, you got to be out of your mind to turn that down, right?
Right.
Was that around that time when you look at this on paper, you think, okay, Indians make an offer 1.6, oh, boom, okay, he's going to sign professionally. But Vanderbilt, that as a kid, was that a place that, because your brother went there, right? Was that a place that you and your brother, when you were growing up, said, "Oh, Vandy, I want to go to Vanderbilt"?
Yeah, I was actually the one that turned my brother on to Vanderbilt.
Really?
He was actually committed to Tennessee. And,
oh wow.
So then their head coach got fired, and they got a whole new staff. So then he decommitted, and I had been wanting to go to Vanderbilt since I was probably 7th, 8th grade. David Price, he went there.
Yeah.
So I was a huge fan of him, watching him play out there. So, I put my brother on them, and we went to a couple more visits, and then he committed before me, and then I was after him. So
you guys went on visits together?
Yeah, every visit.
Really?
Every visit he had, I was on with him.
How would that go? But were they trying to recruit both of you guys?
Yeah. They would talk to both of us at the same time.
So how would that go? Like when they're making an offer, was it separate or were you both in the room together? How'd that work?
So since he was older, he would always get the offer first, and then they would say, and then next year we'll follow up with the same thing, or
gotcha.
Things like that. But I would always be sitting in on the meetings and things like that.
Because you were even on their field. What's the name of their field?
Hawkins.
That's where you threw the no hitter, 17 Ks.
Yeah.
And you were already committed at that point, right?
Yeah, I was committed there. Yep.
Because I watched. It's funny because I watched the clip and not to. I hope no one from Vanderbilt's listening to this, but I watched the clip. You're like, oh, hopefully more of these coming up. And then boom, so yeah, go on. You sign with the Indians. So it's like, you know, I mean, because they got a huge fan base, you know, and they're a huge baseball program. They must be like, is this really? So so the Indians, and you would have had a bunch of teams. What were those conversations like? Were they like, hey, and your response was, and you can correct me at any time. You're like, no, I'm going to go to school. This is where I want to go. Don't even bother with the. How's that conversation go down? Because we're talking first round, you know, first round dude. It's not like, you know, in Australia we're talking, you know, kid gets offered $100,000. You're like, oh yeah, I'll go there over anywhere because they don't quite understand the system. So for you, what were those conversations like? What were these teams throwing at you to try and to fill you out?
Yeah, I mean, we had numerous house visits. You know, I think I met with every team. You know, and we told them we were pretty sturdy on going to Vandy. You know, that was one of the big things, and you know, that was 100% fact. My parents were big time on going to get our education, going to college, getting those years in, playing with my brother again.
Yeah.
You know, that was a lot weighing on me over here, but you know, I just told the teams that you know, they would just have to throw me some life-changing money, and you know, we'll see what happens, and just kind of took it from there.
And when you say life-changing money, like what amount of money would it have taken to sign you, to take you away from going to Vanderbilt?
Probably right around where I was at.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, probably right around where I was at.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, it's just tough to turn down and go to school. I think about it all the time. You know, I think about what if I would have went to school. You know, but you know, I think I made the right decision looking back now.
Yeah. And so there's no regrets, or, you know, did your brother, you know, a year later say, dude, you should have came here, you know, anything like that?
No, I don't think there was any regrets. I think everything kind of worked out on its own. I was staying with him in the off season up in Vandy, so I was kind of getting
right.
A
So you
taste
still,
of it. I still got a little. Yeah.
Were you able to, and you were able to work out, you know? Oh, see, I mean that.
Yeah. Okay. They would let me work out, go throw or whatever. So I mean, it was still worked out good.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? So when you sign out of high school, and I've seen this all the time. I played rookie ball, you know, year and a half in rookie ball, whatever it was. Just, you know, it's crazy because you've got a bunch. First of all, you've got everyone from Latin America, a bunch of, you know, 17-year-olds, and then you've got, you know, I was 18 my first year. Everyone's so young, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard. And the thing is too, you there's nothing to do. I don't know if you went straight, if you ended up even played in rookie ball that first year, but
I did. Yeah.
You're in extended spring. There's nothing to do.
No, it was straight rookie ball. I remember I was like, dude, what is like? This is like not what I expected at all. Like, I'm thinking we're supposed to be playing in stadiums, fans, all this stuff, and you know, you get out there and there's no fans. You're playing night games, and you're out there midday practicing, hot, can't even breathe down there. I mean, it's just brutal. But we made the best of it, though. It was one of my favorite years, honestly. My first year of rookie ball.
And plus, you had a good year as well, right?
Yeah, we won the championship, so can't complain.
Oh, there you go. Nice. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Like, you go from, you know, you're a first rounder, you go, you know, there's all this hype. You get to wear the Indians uniform, the whole thing, and then all of a sudden it's such an anticlimax. And at that point, you're probably thinking to yourself, man, I could be pitching to Vandy right now.
Seriously, I was too. I was calling my brother like, dude, like you wouldn't even believe what this is like.
Right.
But yeah, it was tough, but rookie ball days, man.
Yeah. So, and then later that year, you get into some trouble, right? Was that 2014? So you get arrested.
That year.
Okay. Yep. So talk me through that. You're 18 years old. You're a kid. All right. Mm-hmm. And I did some dumb things when I was 18 years old. So what went down? Not many Mariner fans, you know this, with basically what went down. You got arrested for trespassing and underage drinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So where was this at, and what all went down?
It was just in my hometown. Like you said, we were 18, stupid, hanging out with a bunch of my buddies, just drinking, and you know, girl got involved, and you know, drinking and girl. That was two things that didn't mix well, and you know, things went down that really shouldn't have. Really should have got unresolved. It really should have got resolved, but blew up more than what it should have been, and then but it happened, and you know, definitely regretting it, I guess you could say, but
Yeah.
glad that it happened because I grew up instantly. Had to right after that.
And if it had to happen, that's the time for it to happen, right? When
Oh,
you're
yeah.
earlier, because and this is what I was thinking about, because I was going through, your early years with the Indians and the Yankees and everything else, prepping for this. And I think back then, because I did some dumb stuff when I was 18, and it's one of those things that if you feel like you're invincible, right? And at that point in your life, you're a first round draft pick. Everyone, I mean, you go back to your hometown and you're a rock star, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that's something that didn't quite hit you like a ton of bricks, which I'm sure it did, you're talking 20, 21, 22, when you're a higher profile guy, or you're with the Yankees or something like that. Nothing against the Indians, but New York, dude, you do something like that.
Yeah.
Man, you're
times 10.
Yeah. So what was the reaction? Right when that happened, did you contact the Indians? How'd that all go down?
Yeah. I had to call the Indians, contact them myself, let them know what happened, and kind of went through it, and they pretty much told me that they had my back. And whenever I got through the whole court thing, then they were going to fly me out there just to kind of get back to baseball mode, and that's kind of what happened. Went through it, went out there.
So what month was this?
This was December.
Okay, so December.
Yeah.
So who'd you call? Who in the Indians? Not the GM. You call the farm director?
At first I called Mark Allen, which was my pitching coach, rookie ball pitching coach that year.
Gotcha.
I didn't at 18. I didn't even know anybody.
Yeah.
I just knew that my rookie ball team. That was it.
Yeah.
So then I had to get off the phone. I had to call Mike Turnoff and who else was over there? Chris Antonetti, and talk to them on the phone and just let them know what happened. And they told me just to hold tight and let it work itself out, and see where we go. So luckily we were able to get through it.
Right. So their first response wasn't, trying to punish you or anything like that. They tried to, keep it quiet and basically got you out to where? To Arizona?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were more thankful for me telling them before it, blew up. So, yep.
So from there, you're in Arizona basically from, December all the way through to spring training.
Yeah. I was out there just kind of working out, training. And then after that, every off season after that, until I got traded to the Yankees, I was out in Arizona.
Really?
Doing strength camp out there for 4 months. Yeah.
And this was a reaction because of what happened?
No, definitely not. But I'm sure
that was you. But that was basically saying, yeah, okay.
Yeah, gotcha. That was me saying like, hey, I gotta grow up. I gotta get out of here. Focus on baseball. Sure. So.
Because we don't, in Seattle, and this is what I love about, the Mariners. I mean, as far as the media is concerned, they have your back. But you get traded to New York, and you said the first thing that they brought up was this.
Oh, yeah. That was literally the first thing. Like, it was like, hey, welcome to New York. Yada, yada, yada. Hey, what happened on this date?
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, you come over in a massive trade. Andrew Miller went to the Indians. Mm-hmm. You came over with Clint Frazier, a couple other guys. Yeah. Such a prospect group. Boom, over. Big trade. And the first thing, not, hey, look, we're excited. What can you tell us about you? It's that straight away. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, they gave me my props from the excitement of the trade, but then it was like eventually they got to it. I knew they were going to ask at some point.
Yeah.
So.
And you were able to handle it okay? Wasn't it a distraction? Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. Like I said, definitely learn from that situation. Like, we got to go through all our faults. So, definitely glad I went through mine at a young age, and kind of helped me get back on track.
And then, so you're with the Yankees. You make your debut, right, in Yankee Stadium.
Yep.
All right, tell us about that. I love hearing debut stories. Who told you? Were you in AAA before that? Or?
Yeah. Yep. I was in AAA.
All right, so run me through, how did you find out you're going to go to the big leagues?
Yeah, so I was in the bullpen, actually. I'd been pitching. I was a starter the whole year, and there was talks all of if I was ever going to get called up, if I could be used out of the bullpen for postseason, things like that. So then AAA, I get put in the bullpen. So I kind of have a thought in my head, okay, this might be it. Like I'm going to the show maybe. So then I start throwing in playoffs in AAA out of the pen. My first outing out of the pen was good, like really good. And I was like, dude, I got this. Like, let's go. And I think it was that mental thing again. I started getting swacks all over the field when I got to the bullpen. Last game of playoffs in AAA, finished the game. I come in. I think we're down or we're up by like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I come in late in the innings, end up giving up the lead. We end up losing the game. We're getting sent home. I'm packing my bag at my in the clubhouse, and then Bobby Mitchell was the skipper that year. Called me in, and he had told me that I was going to go to the big leagues. And
oh wow,
yeah, it was pretty sick. The whole team, even though we just lost, the whole team was at the door, cheering and stuff. So it was cool.
Were there other guys going with you on that day when they're packing up?
It was me and Domingo Herman.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right, so then you get to New York, and how many weeks were left in September? Because you guys played the playoffs.
Yeah. I think there was 3.5 weeks, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Because I pitched in, I want to say four games.
Right.
So, but yeah, debut, got the Yankee Stadium, and we're playing the Red Sox. And we're killing them. We're killing them. And it's like 10-1, 10-2, something like that. And Tommy Kahnle, he's in the bullpen, supposed to be getting hot. Well, he's taking forever to get hot. And Mike Harkey, he's calling down like, dude, I don't know, he's not getting ready. Like he's taking for a minute. And I had already been up throwing a side. I was just gonna throw a regular side,
right?
Just call it a day because I haven't thrown in a few days.
Yeah.
And I get done with my side, and Harkey calls down again, and I hear him talking. Kahnle's still not ready. He looks at me. He's like, "Chef, you want to pitch tonight?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it.
No way.
Let's go." So then, he's like, "You got it," and told me I was in, and then
the heart starts racing.
Oh my God! I think my next 3 pitches was halfway up the backstop in the bullpen. I was just making sure I didn't trip when I ran out to the mound. It was definitely, I couldn't feel anything. Like
see that helps some guys. Like for me, the later you tell me, the better. Like the later I know I'm going to go to pitching again. That's what I struggle with starting. If I had 4 days to know I was pitching, it just my head just go start spinning.
Yeah.
But when you're basically throwing a side in bullpen in Yankee Stadium, you feel like you just kind of get your work in, whatever. Then boom, lights go on, heart rate goes up. Oh man! So you go in. Who are you facing?
I faced the first batter was. What was it? First batter was, I wouldn't even be able to tell you honestly. I wouldn't even be able to tell you. I could tell you what happened. All I know is what happened. And I think the first batter got on a error by me, a fielding error. Yeah, dude, he had a rollover down the line. I was running over there to get it, and I juggled it and tried to flip it to first. He ended up being safe. And then after that, I think I walked the guy, gave up a hit, ended up being bases loaded, 1 out. Mookie Betts comes up, and it ended up being 3-1 count. Next pitch, I threw a 94 fastball down the middle. He turns on it, hits it probably about 2 feet foul. And then next pitch, ground ball, roll over, double play, and getting out of it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And so your whole family's there?
Whole family was there.
Awesome.
They showed up that day because, out of the bullpen, you didn't know when you were pitching. So
Yeah, for sure. Oh, man.
So, it worked out perfect.
All right, so then you come over to the Mariners, right? How did you feel when you got traded? What was the first reaction? Were you like, man, I want to be in stripes. I'm with a big market team. I'm a New York Yankee. You go back that off season, Thanksgiving, you go and see your extended family. They're like, dude, you play with the Yankees. Was it? And be honest, man, because I've spoke to some guys about this. Was it this thing like, oh man, I like being a New York Yankee? Was there that reaction at first, or were you excited to come over?
Yeah, when I first got traded, I was actually like sad because all my boys was with the Indians. Like that was all I knew.
Right.
18 to 20, whenever it was when I got traded in 2016. So, I was like, dude, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. Like this is, I don't know none of this. But then after that sank in, I was like, it's the Yankees. All right, let's go. Yeah. Like I was I was ready. It was a different feeling for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I'm talking about when you got traded from the Yankees to the Mariners. Did you feel like, was there a part of you thinking, hey, look, I want to be a New York Yankee? I was hoping to start my career.
When I was getting traded from over there to over here. Oh no. I was definitely excited. As far as the opportunity goes, and for myself, it's tough over there with the Yankees. They powerhouse team. They're gonna have their guys. I was definitely happy I put myself in that opportunity to get traded.
Yeah. So. I think too, and something that you mentioned Justin Dunn, Kyle Lewis. I think, having that, going to Double A, having that little camaraderie, that little core group that everyone talks about. That's all we talk about, man. We're doing a pre and post game show, and we're talking about the Double A team. You know what I mean? It's like it's awesome, but I don't think you guys take it for granted, which is good. Like, in other words, some guys they're in such a good spot, good opportunity. And this is coming from an old dude who's done pitching. I'm looking at you guys, I'm jealous, man. I'm like, all these guys, they're all studs. They're all going to sort of come up and do this together. Yeah. Like, that's so exciting. Like, you're lucky in a sense, but I feel like there's not this sense of entitlement at all. Mm-hmm. I noticed with you guys. And I think you guys sort of understand where you're at. And how this is going to be like a slow process. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you've obviously been here long enough. When you look around, so Justin Dunn, Kyle Lewis, who are your other buddies in this organization that you're excited to play with?
Yeah, Evan White. He's another one. Fraley, he's another one. Yeah. Donnie Walton. I'll throw Donnie out there, dude. He's one of my favorite players to watch out there.
I'm going to get this straight. He wants to be called Donovan, though, right?
Donovan, yes, he does want to get called Donovan. Yes,
does he get mad? Does he get mad when you call him Donnie?
No, I usually call him Don. So he doesn't carry it away, but I've heard he wants to be Donovan now.
I got an email from the PR, so we get these emails making sure that we're pronouncing names correctly and stuff like that. And it said in bold letters, "It is not Donnie, it is Donovan." Right? And I'm like, oh man, he must have said something like, "Hey, this is not my name" or whatever.
Yeah, no, there's none of that.
So I get to spring training this year, and I'm like, oh, hey, Donnie Walton. First thing I'm like, oh man, if anyone's listening to this and knows him, is going to be like, it's Donovan. Like mum or dad or someone who's mad about that. Okay, so. All right, and then what about with the team that was up last year? Obviously, the guys who were there all year. Is there any veterans that you lean on?
Yeah, Marco for sure. Kendall Graveman, he's a guy who I've really got pretty tight with this year. He was my throwing partner all through spring training.
Oh, cool.
So you know how that is. Once you get that throwing partner, it kind of sticks for the rest of the year. Yeah. But and obviously D, he's always going to be there in Seager. All those guys. I feel like we got a perfect mesh of group of veteran guys in there. They're not going to be guys that kind of overlook the young guys, things like that. They're there to help and answer questions. So
that's awesome. Well, look, I don't know what's going to happen this year as far as how many games are going to get in or any of that, but man, I'm excited to watch you pitch, dude. And watching you in spring training again, I think it just goes back to you just looked comfortable, looked like you'd already been through the ups and downs of 2019. So that's going to be exciting, man. I've thrown your name out there. Who's the ones to watch? This is on MLB Network, and I throw your name out there, man. I'm excited. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
On this, it's been fun, dude. But once we get back, we need to do this in person, dude.
Yeah. Let's get all this daggone quarantine
this is
stuff
depressing.
Out of here, man.
I know. This is depressing.
Terrible.
It's brutal. Anyway, mate, awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it, and all the best once you guys get back and start going.
All right, I appreciate it, Ryan.
Awesome, man.
All right, stay safe, man.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode with Justus Sheffield. Now, make sure you click that subscribe button down below, because coming up on future episodes, I get a chance to sit down with 6-time UFC champion and MMA legend Randy Couture, as well as comedian and huge Seattle Mariners fan, Mr. Adam Ray. I'll catch you on the top step soon.